It is a quiet evening at a local bar, the kind of place where everyone knows your name. The only noise you hear is the clink of glass and the murmur of conversations. The atmosphere is calm, almost peaceful. At the bar, a lone figure sits. He is a black soldier named Sergeant James Foster. His demeanor is calm and confident as he sips his drink. His face remains unreadable, but his eyes reflect a depth of experience far beyond his years. Little does he know, this evening will test his resolve in ways he never expected. The door swings open with force. A group of rough-looking bikers swagger into the bar. Their leather jackets and aggressive postures scream trouble. They scan the room, eyes locking onto the soldier. These bikers have one thing on their mind: intimidation. What they don't know is that Sergeant Foster is no stranger to conflict. This moment will unfold in a way none of them can predict. As the bikers approach, their mocking smiles and whispered comments create an electric tension in the air. The scene is set for an unforgettable confrontation. These bikers think they can provoke this soldier. What happens next will leave everyone in shock. In this video, we will show you the shocking turn of events that unfolds when these racist bikers try to mess with a man who has been trained for far worse. You will learn how one man's unshakable calm in the face of hate leads to a stunning twist nobody saw coming. The bikers made their move. One of them, a tall man with a scruffy beard, sneered as he leaned in closer to the soldier, who hadn't moved from his spot at the bar. He glanced over at his friends, all of them exchanging smirks, ready to start their game. "Hey, soldier," the biker called out, his voice dripping with mockery. "You really think you are tough because you wear that uniform?" He gestured to the soldier's casual jacket, clearly trying to undermine him. "Or is that just how you folks do it these days?" The other bikers chuckled, their laughter harsh and menacing. The soldier didn't flinch. His eyes remained fixed on his drink, his fingers gripping the glass with practiced ease. He had faced much worse in his years of service. Insults, threats. They were nothing compared to what he had endured on the battlefield. But this was different. Another biker, shorter but just as aggressive, leaned in, his breath sour with alcohol. "What's it like fighting for a country that doesn't even care about people like you?" he sneered, his eyes scanning the soldier as if searching for weakness. The words stung, but the soldier's face remained unreadable. His posture was still, his hands steady on the bar, as though he were in no rush to react to the provocation. He had learned long ago to ignore distractions, to keep his focus sharp. But the bikers weren't giving up. They wanted a reaction. They needed to see the soldier break. One of them, the biggest of the group, walked up beside him and slapped a hand on the soldier's shoulder, as though to assert dominance. "You are just a puppet in that uniform. Doesn't matter what you did. They're all the same, right?" He let the words hang in the air, waiting for the soldier to crack. There was a noticeable shift in the bar's atmosphere. The few people sitting at nearby tables grew still, sensing the growing tension. Eyes began to shift toward the group, some feeling the urge to step in. But no one moved. Still, the soldier didn't react. His eyes, calm as ever, finally met the bikers. For a moment, the two locked gazes, the silence stretching like a taut wire between them. "I've seen worse," the soldier finally spoke, his voice calm but firm. It was a simple statement, but one that carried a weight. The bikers were thrown off by his calmness. They had expected anger, a fight, maybe even a defensive outburst. Instead, they were met with unshakable composure. The bikers exchanged puzzled glances, unsure of how to proceed. Their jeers faltered for a moment. This wasn't going the way they had hoped. The tension in the bar only grew thicker as the moments stretched on. The soldier's stillness had begun to unnervingly fill the room, and the bikers, for the first time, found themselves at a loss for what to do next. What would it take to make him snap? Was he really as unbothered as he appeared? Or was this just the calm before a storm? The bikers stood there, unsure of what to make of the soldier's calm. They had expected a fight, something loud and physical. They wanted him to react, to show that he was just like anyone else. But he hadn't. For a moment, everything seemed to freeze. The soldier didn't speak. He didn't flinch or even seem bothered by the insults. Instead, he took a slow, deliberate breath, deep and controlled. The kind of breath someone takes before making a decision that would change everything. And then, without warning, he stood up. His movements were measured, deliberate, as if every step was carefully chosen. The leather of his jacket creaked slightly as he rose, the sound almost too loud in the now quiet bar. The bikers watched, their smug expressions faltering, unsure of what to expect next. The soldier didn't rush. He took his time, as if the space between him and the bikers were a world of its own, something that needed to be crossed with purpose. He didn't clench his fists or straighten his shoulders in preparation for a confrontation. He simply stood taller, his presence quietly commanding respect. All eyes were now on him. The patrons of the bar had stopped talking, their conversations hanging in the air like unfinished thoughts. It was as if time had slowed, and for a brief moment, it felt like everyone was holding their breath, waiting for something to happen. The soldier took one slow step toward the group of bikers. The leather-jacketed men shifted slightly, unsure of whether to back off or dig in their heels. The silence in the room grew thicker, more palpable. The tension was undeniable. The biker who had been closest to him stepped back, his eyes narrowing. He wasn't used to people standing their ground like this. As the soldier moved forward, he didn't show fear. He didn't show anger. His face was a mask of calm confidence, his eyes steady and unwavering. There was something almost serene about him, as if he had faced far worse things than these men and wasn't even fazed by their presence. The bikers exchanged uneasy glances, shifting their weight from one foot to the other, unsure how to react. It was a standoff of sorts, though it wasn't the kind they had expected. The soldier's very stillness seemed to shake them more than any threat or challenge could. His quiet strength had a way of demanding attention, and in that moment, the bikers were starting to feel it. With every step the soldier took, the bar became more silent. No one dared to speak, not even the bartender, who stood behind the counter, frozen. People didn't just watch. They leaned in, drawn into this tense moment that seemed to stretch forever. And the soldier, he kept walking, slow, measured, his eyes fixed on the bikers, as if he already knew exactly how this moment would unfold. His presence, calm and unwavering, commanded not just their attention, but the attention of everyone in the room. The moment seemed to stretch on forever. The bikers stood there, watching, unsure of what the soldier was going to do next. The tension was thick, crackling in the air, as if everyone in the bar was waiting for a spark to set it all off. But what happened next caught everyone off guard. The soldier didn't swing a punch. He didn't throw a single insult back at them. Instead, he did something entirely unexpected. Without saying a word, he slowly reached for the collar of his jacket. His fingers, steady and deliberate, unbuttoned the flap. He then pulled back the sleeve, revealing the glint of metals pinned to his uniform underneath. The biker who had mocked him the most, the one standing just a few feet away, took a step back as he noticed the military decorations. The soldiers' medals shimmered under the bar lights, each one a silent testament to the years of service, sacrifice, and bravery. The bikers exchanged glances, confusion flickering in their eyes. They had expected a confrontation, a moment where the soldier would fight back, maybe even raise his fists. But this was different. They hadn't expected him to stand there, calm and unflinching, as though showing them a part of his soul instead of resorting to violence. With a soft but firm voice, the soldier finally spoke. I didn't fight for people to disrespect me, he said quietly. But there was a weight to his words. The room went even quieter. If that was possible, he wasn't raising his voice or making threats. No, it was the sheer power of his presence. The unspoken authority of someone who had been through much more than these men could ever imagine. The bikers stood frozen. One of them even seemed to gulp, realizing that they had underestimated the soldier. They had thought he was just another target for their petty insults. But they were wrong. The soldier wasn't the kind of man who could be reduced to their hatred and ignorance. The soldier didn't wait for their response. With his gaze steady, he slowly buttoned his sleeve back up. Without looking back, he turned and walked away from the group, his steps slow but purposeful. The bikers were left standing in stunned silence, the weight of his unspoken message settling in around them. They had hoped to break him, but instead, they had encountered something they didn't understand, something stronger, something that left them feeling small in comparison. The soldier's calmness, his dignity, his very presence had humbled them in a way no violence could. They watched him leave, knowing that they had just been part of a moment they would never forget. The room was eerily quiet. The bikers stood frozen, their mouths slightly open as they watched the soldier walk away. Not one of them moved. They had expected chaos, a fight, or perhaps a few harsh words that would make them feel like they had won. Instead, they were met with silence, a silence that seemed to hang heavier than any shout. Their expressions shifted from mockery to confusion, and then to something else. It was almost as if the realization was slowly sinking in. They had misjudged this man. They had tried to provoke him, push him to a point where he would snap, but they hadn't counted on his strength of character, the kind of strength that didn't need to prove anything to anyone. The bikers exchanged awkward glances, unsure of what to do next. Their bravado had all but disappeared, leaving them standing there like strangers in a room that no longer felt like their own. The soldiers' actions had completely disarmed them, not with force, but with a quiet authority they hadn't anticipated. Across the bar, the mood began to shift. The tension that had filled the air only moments ago began to dissolve. Patrons who had been holding their breath now released it, and the weight of the situation began to fade into something else. Something deeper. People were starting to talk again, but this time the conversation was different. The whispers that had been laced with uncertainty were now filled with admiration. Some even nodded to one another, as if silently acknowledging the soldier's powerful stand. A man from the corner booth, who had been watching the entire scene unfold, raised his glass in a quiet gesture of support. Others followed suit, lifting their drinks in solidarity with the soldier. There was no applause, no loud cheers, but the quiet respect in the room was unmistakable. It was as if everyone now understood something profound had just happened. Words had failed, but actions had spoken volumes. The bikers, who had moments before filled the room with their noise, now stood in stark contrast to the bar's shifting atmosphere. Their presence felt out of place, almost as though they no longer belonged in this space. Surrounded by a sense of quiet respect that they had never expected, the soldier's ability to defuse the situation without raising his voice or his fist had left everyone stunned. And in that silence, his dignity seemed to echo louder than any words ever could. The few who had once been uncomfortable, unsure of whether to intervene, now stood a little taller. The air had changed, thicker with a kind of respect that had replaced the tension. No one needed to say it out loud. It was clear. The soldier's unyielding composure had turned the tables. And now, even the bikers, though reluctant to admit it, knew that they had lost. Not to a punch or a fight, but to something far stronger, something they hadn't seen coming. As the soldier walked away, the bar slowly returned to its usual rhythm. But the moment that had just unfolded would linger in the minds of everyone who witnessed it. The bikers may have come in hoping for a fight, but instead, They encountered something far more powerful than they had imagined, an unwavering strength, not of fists or words, but of character. In a world where anger and violence often seem like the quickest responses, the soldier's calm and peaceful reaction was a reminder that true power doesn't come from shouting the loudest or throwing the hardest punch. It comes from within. His ability to stand his ground without letting hatred take hold of him showed that the strongest moves are often the quietest ones. Sometimes, the most unexpected actions leave the deepest impact, not just on those who are targeted, but on everyone who witnesses them. The soldier didn't just walk away with dignity. He left behind a lesson in resilience, respect, and inner strength. He showed us all that when faced with hate, the most powerful weapon is a peaceful heart and a steady mind. If you found this story inspiring, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more incredible stories like this. Share it with someone who needs to hear this message, and join us as we continue to share stories of strength, courage, and the power of choosing peace. This story is fictional and not based on real events. Any resemblance to actual people or situations is purely coincidental. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next video.